is wrong to somehow suggest that an undocumented immigrant is a criminal.
There's a secret plot in the United States to steal elections going on right now. And I'm going to show you the 4-step plan these dirty politicians are using to steal your election using illegal migrants. This is a dangerous game these politicians are playing, and as always, it's the US citizens that are paying the price. I'll show you the illegal world of vote harvesting. Let's jump in. But if you're new to my channel, I'm Grant Warrington. I moved to Florida and retired early thanks to real estate investing. Now, I make videos showing why you should either move here, invest here, or vacation here. Let's jump in. I could never figure out why they're letting illegal immigrants through the border at such a massive rate. You have to understand, it's still illegal to cross the border into this country, and there are current laws in place to stop it. The current administration, however, has been more lenient on their policies towards this happening. But why? Why is it so important to have illegal migration when we have legal paths to citizenship set up here in the US? Let's check it out.
Despite possible mass fraud, Biden-Harris may soon restart a program letting thousands of illegal immigrants apply for U.S. entry from their home countries. The program, which lets Cuban, Haitian, Nicaraguan, and Venezuelan migrants apply for legal entry, was paused just last month after an internal audit found potential fraud with over 100,000 applications, having just over 3,000 sponsors. That's definitely curious.
Now, this program makes no sense to me, but here's how it works. Someone in the United States has to sponsor these illegal immigrants to come into the country. So as you can see here, 3,218 people sponsored 100,000 people that came in. How's that happening?
Here to react, Fox News contributor and retired acting ICE director, Tom Homan. Tom, can we just start from the very beginning? Why are we doing this? We have a legal way to apply to enter into our country, and we're restarting a program where we know people who've come through this program have come in here fraudulently, have killed and raped Americans, and they're restarting it. Why? What's happening?
So if this system was involved with massive fraud, we already know that. Why would they be restarting it? And the worst part about this whole thing is all the massive crime that's been taking place by these illegal immigrants.
It's just another way of them bring illegal aliens in the country. They put them in a bucket with CHNV, this program, or they can put 1,000 into the CBP1 app. They're talking about the same illegal alien population. They create these programs, what they call legal pathways, which they aren't. They're illegal, but they're creating these buckets, Rachel, so they can say illegal entries are down when they're not. If you add what CBP, what Border Patrol is still catching, entering illegally, what's coming through the port of entries, what's coming through this program, we're still at historic highs.
So if you've heard the numbers are coming down, and I think the Biden administration has said that, you've heard they're stopping illegals from crossing the border, the numbers are down. It sounds to me like this is why, because they have programs like this that can take the focus off the border and they can actually fly these illegals now into the country. Yes, I said fly them into the country, and they're allowed to come in that way.
I'll give you one example of the fraud of this program. And this comes from an inside source who was managing the program, very good friend of mine. One dead man sponsored 1,800 people. He's been dead for years, and he's the sponsor of 1,800 people. That's the type of fraud. I'm telling you, there are thousands of children are in sex trafficking because they were sponsored by sex traffickers, and criminal cartels are already in the United States.
Again, there's massive fraud with this. This is the old director of ICE telling us this, and we're going to go ahead with this again. And this is the scary part too. There's all these children that have come into this country and no one knows where they're at. So I know America does not need this program, but there is a sinister reason behind it, and I'm going to get into that.
I just want to make very clear to our viewers, you're saying that this program was set up because if you're registered or you're processed in a foreign country, which is what this program does, you get processed by an NGO in Peru and some other country, and then you're flown over here then you're not actually counted in the numbers crossing the border without paperwork. So this is a way for our government to make it look like they've done something to lower the number of people coming over illegally when in fact they're increasing it.
Those sneaky bastards, this should be illegal. So when you're vote harvesting, which is exactly what they're doing, the first thing you need to do is create a dependent voter base. So you need to let people into the country, and that's exactly what they're doing. You need to take your policies and just relax them. And that's what's happening at the border right now. It's catch and release. So they don't deport anybody at the border. They just let them come into the country. Whether they're documented or not, they just let them come in. But the problem when they come in is Texas is very hard on illegal immigrants, their judicial system. So what the United States government does is they get them out of Texas. They provide buses and they will transport them to, say, Denver or to New York City, which are sanctuary cities. And these judges are much more lenient on these illegal immigrants. So they'll go to court in these lenient cities and the judge will say, well, we're backed up, come back in 5 to 10 years. And now they can stay in the country. So now you need to temporarily house these people and feed them. And guess who's doing that? You and me. It's the taxpayers. In New York City alone, what they've done is they've taken 1 out of every 5 hotels and turned them into illegal migrant shelters. So these hotels charge the city up to 5 times what it would normally cost a room. So they're making a killing. And the city's been paying for these migrants, some up to a year, to live in these hotels. How'd you like to live in a hotel for free for a year? The second thing you need to do to harvest votes illegally is you need financial support for these people and you need to relocate them. New York City has around 60,000 illegal immigrants alone in the city living in these hotel rooms. They've realized, hey, we can't pay for them to live here forever. So that's turning out to be a major problem. They're starting to now have to evict these illegal immigrants, and now they're looking like the bad guy, when in fact, they're one of the cities that have created this whole problem. And one of the things New York City realized was they're gonna need some free money. Forget about all of our citizens or homeless living in the city. Let's take care of the illegal immigrants. We'll put them in a hotel, we'll feed them, and we'll also give them some cash. Check it out. New York City to spend millions on new round of prepaid debit cards for migrants. New York City officials are dramatically expanding a controversial program that gives debit cards preloaded with cash to migrant families staying in taxpayer-funded hotels across the city. The Adams administration says another round of debit cards is expected to be distributed to more than 7,300 migrants over the next 6 months, costing the city and taxpayers about $2.6 million. They also need to provide education to the families that are coming with children. Not all of them are. There's a lot of single males of military age crossing the border. But the ones that do have families, they put them in the school system so that they can integrate these children into the system. And now they've figured out, you know what? We need to get a long-term housing solution for these people. So now they've created programs and used taxpayer money to offer permanent residence options. And the goal with this is to secure long-term political loyalty. According to Newsweek, Oregon plan offers $30,000 to help migrants buy homes. Controversy erupted after a taxpayer-funded housing support group in Portland, Oregon appeared to have been offering grants of $30,000 to first-time buyers in the state, but with only those who are not U.S. citizens eligible to apply. So if you're a citizen of the United States, you live in Oregon, and you've never bought a home before, and that's your dream is to buy a home, guess what? You cannot apply for this because you're a legal citizen. Ain't that some shit? Take a look at this chart. This shows the annual U.S.-Mexico border apprehensions. Now that doesn't mean that the Border Patrol is deporting these people. They're actually letting them go. It's a catch and release program. In 2023 alone, you can see 2 million people entered the country illegally. Now these are the people that were caught. There's much more that entered that the Border Patrol has no idea of. And not to mention Biden's program that's adding hundreds of thousands of people.
A California measure that could expand a taxpayer-funded program on home ownership. The proposal would allow illegal immigrants to become eligible to receive interest-free loans on homes.
Interest-free loans. I did not know that. So I have to pay interest on my loans. You have to pay interest on your home loans. This blows my mind. Could you make a sweeter deal? If you cross the border illegally, we're going to transport you to New York City or Denver. We're going to house you for up to a year. We're also going to give you a prepaid debit card, and we're also going to give you a path to buy a home. And you know what? We will not charge you interest on that loan. Now, this is going to do two things. This is going to encourage more people to cross the border, because do you blame them? That's a pretty sweet deal. The other thing it's going to do is establish voter loyalty. And that is what they're looking for. They want these people to remember all of these free things that this party and administration has given them.
Social and economic benefits of homeownership should be accessible to everyone, regardless of immigration status.
Only in California.
Initially, only low-income citizens or legal residents were eligible for the taxpayer subsidy. But last week, Democrats overrode Republican opposition, changing the law to say, quote, an applicant who meets the requirements for a loan under the Home Purchase Assistance Program shall not be disqualified by the agency solely based on the applicant's immigration status.
Now, come on. They gotta know that we're all smarter than this. We know these politicians just aren't doing this out of the goodness of their heart. They're harvesting votes.
It's taking money away from people that are here in California legally.
The lottery program provides some first-time buyers with zero-interest loans up to 20%. That's up to $150,000 in cash to use for down payment and closing costs. So far this year, the state paid out $255 million to roughly 2,000 buyers.
Chirla is proud to sponsor AB 1840.
The bill's sponsor is a Latino advocacy group with close ties to Harris, who gave Chirla her first meeting after becoming senator in 2016. The group also supports her presidential run.
So now we know Harris has ties to this group as well as the Biden administration. And if she does win the election, don't expect this policy to stop. The third step in harvesting votes is give them a pathway to legal status, and you guessed it, voting. So you're gonna see in the next upcoming months, and especially after the election, there's gonna be a big push to get these illegal immigrants documented. And they also are gonna want them documented in a way that will let them vote in future elections. And a great way to do that is develop a fast path to US citizenship or other forms of legal status that fast tracks them to voting rights. Because they're gonna be asking these illegals,
who's your daddy? Who gave you all this money? Who put you up in this housing? And who can take it all away?
And I know what you're thinking, we're US citizens. We'd never let that happen in our country. But I just showed you it's already happening now. And it's gonna get worse. Here's where the fourth and final step and nail in the coffin comes in when you're trying to harvest illegal votes. You need media and communication control. So you gotta control the narrative. You gotta use social media and news outlets to shape public opinion. Remember I told you they bus illegal immigrants from the border up to Colorado? Here's what's going on in Aurora.
All right, everyone. Welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. We'll take a look at this really disturbing video. It has been making the rounds, going viral. This is out in Aurora, Colorado, and it's one that is making headlines, of course, all over the country, where the mayor of Aurora says Venezuelan gangs are overrunning apartment buildings there as part of an organized criminal effort.
This scares the hell out of me because we own apartment buildings, and if this was happening to our tenants, and we lost control of the building, couldn't collect rent, this is very, very frightening. And the state is saying nothing's really happening, they're exaggerating, and the mayor is saying we need help. These gangs are actually collecting rent from tenants and kicking people out that they don't want to live there. This is incredible.
Many say the problem began when the Biden-Harris team opened the border with migrant apprehensions from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, jumping from 17,000 in 2020 to 600,000 in 2022. So the administration created the CHNV program, which provided migrants from those 4 countries with humanitarian parole.
He's referring to that program we talked about earlier that had all of that fraud in it, and the Biden administration is thinking of reacting again. That's where this came from. So this is a major concern, but let's see what Kamala Harris says about it, and if she's elected president, what she'll do.
It is wrong to somehow suggest that an undocumented immigrant is a criminal. Being an undocumented immigrant is not a crime. I know what a crime looks like. An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal. 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 An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal.
This goes on for another 24 seconds. Here's where I think she's wrong. If you enter the country illegally, doesn't that make you a criminal? Not to mention the people that are beating up cops, taking over apartment buildings, and robbing people. Now, the other tactic they're gonna use is if you're against illegal immigration, they're gonna call you racist, especially on social media, and they're gonna work to discredit their opponents, especially through misinformation. But the most powerful thing these administrations can do is they can deplatform people or prosecute anybody that has an opposing view. And the whole point behind that is to reduce their influence and shut them up. And this administration just got caught using social media to suppress information back in 2020 and 2021. This is a letter to the House Judiciary Committee from Mark Zuckerberg, the owner of Facebook, Instagram, or Meta. In 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree. I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret that we were not more outspoken about it. I also think we made some choices that, with the benefit of hindsight and new information, we wouldn't make today. I feel strongly that we should not compromise our content standards due to the pressure from any administration in either direction, and we're ready to push back if something like this happens again. Now you can see why it's so beneficial for the current administration to leave the border open and why it's so dangerous for us as US citizens. I personally believe in legal immigration. It's what our country was built on, and immigrants are some of the smartest, hardest working, creative people I've ever met. Now, if this was just a numbers game and we wanted to get the population up and make immigration available to more people, there's hundreds of thousands of people on green cards right now, and I suggest we give them a quicker path to citizenship. Those people have been doing it the right way and deserve to be US citizens. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel and like this video. That lets YouTube know you thought my video was valuable, and they'll share it with more people. Here's another video I know you're gonna love. Click this video and I'll see you there.